in the worst possible measure.
And sometimes I think the intent is more self-promotion than it is helpful.
Yeah.
You gotta take the wins when you get them.
It's childish.
Keep us busy. We have.
Ms. Maragoni, we good to go? We're all good? Everything's running? Okay. All right, we'd like to call to order our Riverdale City Council meeting for Tuesday, May 5th, 2026. Let the record show that all members of the City Council are present, as well as members of the public and members of the city staff. We'll have our Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Brooks.
All rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brooks. And as is our tradition, I've asked Mr. Carden to offer invocation tonight.
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for the opportunity we have to gather together and discuss the budget and finances of Riverdale City. Please bless us with inspiration and the insights to how we should proceed and what is in the best interest of the city and the residents. And please bless us that we can have a wonderful evening and that we can help those around us. And we love thee and say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Carden. All right. Before we get to public comment, I wanted to reiterate Mr. Brooks' comments. We have a lot to go over tonight, and we have some passionate people here in our city, and some of them are sitting on the council up here with us, and some are in the audience, and some of our employees. And I actually like that. I appreciate that. I really appreciate the public being here. As I look around, I see people that care deeply for this city, as well as the people on the council and the employees. But I just want to reiterate what Mr. Brooks said. Let's try to keep it civil tonight. We're going to proceed with dignity, and let's just try and keep it orderly. I'll give you the floor, but we're not going to tolerate anybody getting out of hand. So let's just proceed with our meeting in a civilized manner. So with that, we will open up for public comment. It's an opportunity to address the city council with your thoughts or concerns or ideas. No action will be taken during the public comment. The council won't be able to answer your questions, but they will be able to jot down notes, and we may be able to answer them later in the meeting or get back to you later. If you do approach the microphone, please state your name and your city of residence and try to limit your comments to 3 minutes, approximately 3 minutes.
Good evening. Some of you guys know me, some of you don't.
Would you just pull that up too? Thank you.
All right. My name's Alan Miller. I live in Riverdale. I've lived here for 38 years. What I've gathered from this pre-meeting at 5 o'clock was you guys are going to raise my taxes, the same as the school district did last year and the sewer district and everybody else. One thing I did learn is you guys are probably going to get rid of the fire department, and I'm very passionate about it. If we're going to do that, no disrespect to the police department or public works, let's just contract it all out. That way we don't have to worry about raising our taxes to where we can afford to live in the city that we love. And that's all I got. You know, you guys are going to do what you're going to do. I can't stop you. I just have to roll with it. But if I voice my opinion, then I can complain about it. If I don't, I have to be quiet. So thank you.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
were you on the planning commission?
Yes. I was on the planning commission with you, the mayor.
Yeah, it's been a good number of years.
15 years.
Yeah, since
15 years since I was
was the
employee
chair.
at the
Yeah,
fire
he
department.
He was the chair.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Seeing no other public comment, we'll move on to presentations and reports. I have just a couple of things for the mayor's report. WACOG last night got kind of some shocking news. So they went to do their transfer station update, which we knew the transfer station was struggling a little bit and was maybe not going to keep going, the Weber County one. They said that on Friday, Ogden had finally had enough and said, we've got to make a decision and we're going to move to the Ogden transfer station. That's the new Robinson transfer station, kind of dealing the death blow to the Weber County transfer station. Ogden is in the same boat as us. They had to make their decision on their budget, and they said, Ogden's offered us a good tipping fee. We're going to do that. That was Friday morning. And they were pretty excited about that. Well, about 3 hours later, from the way I understand it, Steve Robinson and the Ogden transfer station accepted an offer to be purchased by Republic, which is massive. So Republic is now taking over the Ogden transfer station and all of Robinson Waste and all of Robinson's contracts. So Mr. Robinson's been in and talked to our Public Works, and he's been in twice. I think he came in Friday maybe, and he came in like maybe yesterday. It's kind of shocking to him, I think, to be getting out of it, but I guess they made him an offer he can't refuse, kind of. But it's sad. I think he's kind of emotional about it. They're going to do the best. Republic, I talked to him last night. They're going to keep our contracts in place. They're going to honor everything until the duration of it. Hopefully even after that, I think they're going to try and keep up what Steve did for us. We've been spoiled, very spoiled by Robinson. As a former resident, he just took great care of us. So Weber County is basically starting to look for ways out. There may be a private company that comes in and runs Weber County, is what they indicated, maybe Waste Management, or we're not sure. Republic assured us that they will take our residents on like Saturdays, like to dump their stuff. Maybe not every day of the week, but Saturday and maybe a weekday or two. They'll deal with hazardous household waste, oil, paint, that kind of stuff. But boy, what a crazy turn of events. So I guess we still just move forward tonight with our budget. But anyway, so that was crazy. And then we also had the ramp easy grant announcements. And I don't know if you've seen this yet, Rich?
I saw earlier today.
Okay, so I was a little frustrated because I only saw one on there for Riverdale, and it was $2,000. It was $2,000 for our Halloween celebration in Riverdale City, and I was mad because most of the other cities got 2 or 3, and but I figured it was just regular. But then I looked a little further down, and in the T's, we had an award to the Riverdale Senior Center. And so, wow, I mean, I didn't realize they were so fancy over there, but we got $2,000 for entertainment over there on the Easy Grants. So,
Eligible for ramp awards.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
oh yeah, the Senior Center isn't actually eligible for ramp awards. So, yeah, and yeah. So, anyway, exciting. We got two grants on that. So. That was great. And also, I don't know if you guys saw the email from Miranda today, but it looks like they had just a fantastic health fair. Tons of money came in from the vendors. They were able to provide free lunch for all the seniors that day, and really well attended. And I mean, that place is just cranking. So great job to Rich and his people. I mean, it just never ceases to amaze how much they're doing over there. We'll move on to City Council assignment reports. Councilor Stevens, did you attend the housing meeting yesterday? Anything to report on that?
No, I mean, the legislature this last year allocated $100 million for infrastructure, because you can legislate all you want, but there's still critical shortages that prevent municipalities, cities from doing infrastructure or doing a development, and it has to do typically with the high cost of infrastructure to that. And there's a number of examples, and we could use that over there for the bridge. I mean, is an example where infrastructure could be made available. So $100 million isn't very much, it really isn't. But it recognizes the thing that is most important is it shows that the legislature you can put a lot onto the cities, but if there's not infrastructure, or somebody needs a new water tank, or somebody needs whatever, developments aren't going to happen regardless of your best intentions. And so and really 100 million is not that much and it's going to go quick, but it recognizes that there's a need. And that's kind of the big one. And that came out of the legislative session, and Cameron was talking about how to access some of that.
Good. Thank you. Thanks for attending that again. Councilor Richter attended our first development review committee. Do you want to give us an update on that and kind of share with the council your thoughts on that?
So certainly we'll provide with the council sometime this week kind of an update of that last meeting. I think the intent of that is to make sure that the council is aware of projects coming down the pipe and to make sure that you kind of have a heads up and they don't come to us cold there. So it's a good group. I'm looking forward to that, and I think it'll provide a lot of value to not only the planning commission but also council as we look at those new projects. So I'm appreciative of that.
So the one that we did was for the townhomes.
The one that we did was for the townhomes, and like I say, we'll provide additional information that where they laid out exactly what the project's going to look like, some of the questions that we know this council's concerned about, whether it be fencing and things like that around it, or some of the amenities and all of those elements that we kind of have to hear for the first time in these presentations. At least there'll be a little bit more background so we can formulate our questions, I think, a little bit more intelligently and get to the core of whatever concerns the council might have when these new projects come up. So I think it's going to be a valuable add.
I'm sorry, I was a little bit under the impression that maybe you and Mr. Cooper would be showing a little bit of stuff tonight, or?
So I was going to provide some of that here, but I haven't had time to. But that was just the end of last week, so certainly we'll get a presentation together.
Just curious. This is our first time going through it, so but it was a good discussion, and he represented you well with the developer and said, look, fences are important to us and not just cheap, I mean, he was able to convey your concerns, and now he's going to bring back to you what they are before we get the developer in front of you, and hopefully before they even go to the planning commission. So, okay. Anything else, Mr. Councilor Richter?
No.
Okay. No consent items for tonight, so we'll move on to action items. I do have a request of the council. Because we did not get through everything in the work session, we would like to move item number 3, presentation of tentative budget, from space number 3 up to number 1, so that we could continue on with our discussion on everything we've got left with Mr. Carden. Is that okay by consensus with the council? I see a lot of heads shaking. So, all right, we will get back into that presentation with Mr. Carden.
Okay, so once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt me. So that was the general fund. So I'll go to the RDA funds next, and then we'll hit the enterprise funds and internal service funds last. So once again, we're looking at this column in blue. This is the RDA general fund. Not much is changing there. We've kind of got the same estimates this year as last. We did leave some money in there for a possible land purchase. We don't have anything coming that we know of, but just so if something, it seems some of those pop up so fast that it's just nice to have a little bit of money in the budget. So that's the RDA general fund, and we've got $296,550 budget in there. So the Riverdale Road RDA, if you remember, that has expired. So Brandon and I and Steve in talking, we want to get this fund all closed out, the 550 West RDA fund all closed out, and hopefully we can do that by the end of the fiscal year. So what that means is we bought property out of various other funds, and we just need to reconcile that last time, talk to Adam Long, the RDA attorney, and make sure we're good, and then transfer the money where it goes. Because in reality, some of this money should probably go back into like a housing fund, because we bought property out of a housing fund, so we need to put that back. But if we don't get that done, we're proposing a similar budget this year to last year. And why we have improvements in here is, like Councilor Richter talked about, that project with the townhomes. There might be some needs over there, and that's in or adjacent to this RDA area. So that's the Riverdale Road RDA fund. Same thing with the 1051 or the 1050 West RDA area. That's over by Target and Sportsman's. That one's expired and done, if you remember. So we don't have anything there, but we still have the accounts open. Same thing with the Weber River RDA fund. It's expired and closed and has been for a long time. 550 West Riverdale RDA fund. It's the same as the Riverdale Road RDA fund. That's one other one that we want to get cleaned up and hopefully closed out. So hopefully on that final budget amendment that we usually do in June, we'll have some adjustments there so that we can get this closed out and reconciled. And then on Brandon's year-end RDA report, that will reflect that being closed out. So that's that one. The West Bench RDA fund. So we started getting taxes for that. I think we got about 400,000 if I remember right. So we've got the budget for the full year. For next year, it's just our estimate. We'll kind of have to dial this in more over time as we keep going. And just as a reminder, we're still working with America First on an agreement. We don't have an official agreement yet on what we're funding of theirs. So that's the West Bench RDA revenues. For expenditures, we have some money in there for increment payments and possible improvements and some other professional services. Just kind of what we're anticipating getting things set up with Adam and America First. So we've got $850,000 worth of expenditures in there. So that's that. We've set up, I think I told you this last year, we set up this West Bench CRA fund. Nothing's currently happened with that. We're really just using it so we can track the expenditures if the city or the RDA decides to move forward with that. If you remember, that's kind of the property north and I believe east of America First. So we're really just have that so we can get stuff in the right place. If that doesn't end up happening and we end up with expenditures in here, we'll just transfer them back to the RDA general fund. But we do have $100,000 of fund balance there, and then paying for attorney services, professional services, and miscellaneous, kind of what we'd need to set that up if the RDA or CRA decides to move forward with that. So that's the West Bench CRA. The Statutory Housing Fund, in talking with Brandon and Steve, so that's tied directly to the 550 West project. So some of this could be used for the project that Councilor Richter talked about earlier. The other option we might have with this, we need to talk to Adam, is we might be able to just consolidate this with our regular housing fund, and that would make it more flexible so that we could use it throughout the city rather than just in that 550 West. But we do have some use of fund balance there for money that we have because there possibly is a need with that project. So we've got some money budgeted there that if we needed to do a few things, we have a little bit of money. So that's statutory housing. Here's a housing RDA fund. So we've got some loan interest coming in. We've got the use of fund balance. I have those same projects in here. So if we get this all reconciled, most of that money from Riverdale Road, 550 West, and the statutory housing fund would be coming in here. So that's where we would pay for those improvements and things out of. So that's why we increased the budget to $760,000. So that we'd have that funding kind of in multiple places depending on if we get everything reconciled and closed out in time. So that's the statutory or the housing RDA fund, not the statutory, just the regular one. For the senior facility housing fund or facility, in talking to Rich, we're still on track to continue with the original plan, and we're planning on doing a 10% rent increase again. So we have that in the budget. That's the $275,000. We've got a little bit of use of fund balance budgeted, and that's largely for capital projects. I'll talk about that here. Utilities are going up, so we increased the budget there about $6,000 it looks like. Once again, the insurance is going up, so we increased that budget line item. The property taxes as the other entities go up, we pulled that budget up some too. Apartment remodels, we don't anticipate quite as many, and sometimes we've been paying for these up above, but we do have a line item for apartment remodels, so we got $50,000 there. And then as far as capital projects go, the roof, we've got that in here. Sean, I believe, is hoping that we can get that finished this year, but just in case that spills over, he's hoping to get that started here before long. So we've got that in there just in case we need to roll it over. The HVAC, we changed that a little bit from what we talked to you about before. I believe he's going to be able to replace 4 units this year. So with this budget, we think we can replace the last 4. Right. And so that would be enough that then we'd be done with those rooftop units and they would be all new. And then what's remaining, we think we can replace about 7 of the apartments HVAC units. We've done one of those now. It was just over $10,000 and it went pretty good. It was a little bit painful, but it went pretty good. So we wanted a little bit of money in there. If you remember, those are all as old as the facility. So they're about 21 years old now. And so we just wanted a little money there so that we can start working on those. So in total, we've got $1,028,000 budgeted for the senior facility fund. If you don't have questions, I'm just keeping going. Capital Projects Fund, we've got our transfer from the general fund and interest allocation for revenues. As far as projects go, this is what we have in the budget. As we talked to you about, we always put a little bit of money for this building, just like our fire panel going out and the windows breaking. So I've got a little money there. And then we also got a little money in here for the potential painting and staining down here in this room. For the police station, we have tasers for $130,000 and then a little money for their building. At the fire station, we just have 20 grand for incidental things that could happen with that building. The community center, we have 130 budgeted for the infield reconstructions at both parks to 50,000, exercise equipment for 25. Furnace replacement for 10,000. If you remember, those are the residential units on the west end. And then we put some money in there for a community center generator project for 50 grand. That generator that runs both the fire station and the community center, it's really old. And I believe the last inspection we had on it, something like the muffler and some of the other parts are broken. And in talking to Sean, he thought we were better off looking at replacing that rather than trying to find some of the parts to make it continue working. And so so that one is new, but that's something that we put in there so that we could continue having a generator there. If you remember, that's part of our not EOC, our housing center for like if there's a disaster. So we need that generator to run part of that facility so we have heat and things. Parks and trails, the outdoor classroom, I think this will be done by this year, but I put that in there just in case it rolls over. It's the same thing. We don't have it done yet, but we're hoping to get that done by June 30th.
Outdoor classroom, wasn't that a ramp?
I believe there's multiple grants, right, Michelle?
So, but we have to match it?
Yeah, it was ramp.
It's a ramp?
Yeah, so that's just the actual expenditure for the project. So we got money, and then this is us spending the money.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, and then we just have an increase in reserves to offset the transfers.
So do we need to build that, I guess? Like, is Public Works building that, or who's?
No, it's out for bid.
Okay, it's out.
It closes tomorrow.
Okay. And we're trying to have it done by the 4th of July?
Yeah,
hopefully?
the flag's already ordered, and I've already talked to them about installation and stuff, but they need to work with the contractor to make sure everything's done at the right time, so.
Okay, just curious.
I'll know more
Thanks.
tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So that's capital projects fund. Okay, water fund. So Weber Basin is proposing a rate increase. So the proposed rate increase, and if you remember, we've just been passing this through, it's 13.24%. It's been similar to the last couple years. Based upon their estimates for the next year, it's going to be about 13.56 the following year. So historically, where this is just largely a pass-through, that's what the council has done. So that's what we're proposing. So we've proposed increasing the water rates by that 13.24%. So this is what they would look like. That's what the base fees would go to, and that's what the individual fees would go to as well for usage for residential, and then for mobile homes and commercial. This is what they would look like. If you notice, they all end in zeros or fives. We're trying to start doing the rounding for the pennies. So as much as possible, we're trying to get them in the fee schedule without ones, twos, threes, and fours. So that's why we have that there. So we've just got that proposed increase to pass through. And then as far as the expenditures go for that fund, we've got the citywide facts. Sean needed a little bit of an increase in equipment. We've got the wholesale water, which is our purchases through Weber Basin and Roy, going up to $700,000. Power for pumping, we pulled that up a little bit just with the increases in Rocky Mountain Power. Engineering, we have a $50,000 increase in that. He wants to do two things. He wants to do a study of one of our old wells, and then also like a capital replacement plan for the water system as a whole. So that's why he's got $50,000 additional budgeted there. The other professional and technical services, this is where those merchant fees will now be for the utility accounts. We actually get a better rate on those merchant fees, and so we get multiple statements, so it'll be easy to separate most of those. So we'll put half those there, or that portion there. Insurance is going up like we talked previously, so we'll put that. We've got an increase there. Special department expenses for 62.5. That includes water meters for 30, state fee for 2,500, well rectifier for 2,500, hydrants for 3,500, tools for 4,000, and a pipe saw for 7,500.
Question. And you might have to come up, Sean. Sorry. The water meters for 30,000. Like, can you just explain what those are? I was curious.
So those are two different things. So we do have to replace meters every year that go out or that break, but then also all the new construction we have to buy new meters for, but we also get money on the backside for them, but I still have to pay for them out of water. So like if we get a building that comes in that has like a 3-inch meter, it's like $7,000. Or if we get a home that comes in, it's the $300 or $400, but we have to buy all them for the new sets. And so that number's kind of a little bit of a guess because I don't know what Brandon's bringing us this year, but so we're kind of guessing and trying to make sure we have money there to buy meters.
Okay, thanks.
And then we just have miscellaneous going up $1,000 to be 7,500. And then to the next page, postage is going up. So we've got that going up from 15 to 17,000. Depreciation expense, we needed just a little bit more there. So I've got that pulled up by 5,000. That's really just an accounting thing. Motor pool payments, it's going up to be 86,940. I believe that's because we're buying a new vehicle for the water fund. Capital project funds, he's got 950,000 budgeted for water line replacement, water conservative projects for 50,000. We don't have any rollover yet, but depending on if he gets some of his projects done, we might have a rollover. And then we've got $60,000 in there for a fixed base meter reading project. Part of that, if you remember, we have 2 of those right now. That's how we remotely read meters. Do you want to talk about? So with all the publicity, I guess, with water usage, Sean's been looking into, and we get meters through MeterWorks, and they offer an app or a website that people can go to and see their data on their usage. So we haven't met with them yet, but I believe it's about $15,000 for the implementation, and then it'd be about $5,000 a year after that for people to have access to that. They could have an account and log in and see that. So the problem we have right now is we only get like 90% of our meters read that way. And so if you're one of those 10% and you try to log in and see your usage, you can't see it because our meters don't read. So we're budgeting some money to put in more of those. We're having the company do a study based upon which ones we don't read and where we have them currently and the property the city owns, so that we could potentially put more of those up to see if we can put another 1 or 2 up and make that more efficient. So it'd give better data to the residents and the users, and it'd also make it a little easier for the city because those are ones that we have to go manually read. So we've got money in there for those things. So
I'm not real crazy about the real-time paying extra for that. I mean, people are upset about the water fund paying $5 for the first 2,000 gallons, and they get a 1-year history every time they get their water bill. So, I was looking at my water bill, and as Sean always talks about the season and how people's consumption goes up or down based on the season and that kind of stuff. So everybody that gets a Riverdale water bill, it's a 1-year history. So you know how much you're using in last February, you know what you used last June, all that kind of stuff. And, until, we just have to increase the prices of stuff to give a few people the opportunity to watch the meter, just like you're getting gas. It's like if you're filling up your tank and you just sit there and watch the pump tick, and it's like to make everybody pay extra because you got just a couple of people that are taking this way past where they need to go. I mean, you can conserve water by looking at that bill and going, okay, it's going to go up in June or whatever, and I don't see why it has to go up for everybody for somebody to watch the pump. So
And just a couple of things. We're working on an infographic to help people understand their bill. We still working on that?
We are.
'Cause
Yep.
there has been questions about that. So we're working on because I agree, they do get a yearly thing. I'm surprised how many people didn't understand that bill, but there are people out there.
Well, and to be honest with you, I've never looked at it.
Yeah, my wife never has either. But I look at mine every month.
Bill, and I thought,
Yeah.
you know what, there's a perfect graphic right there
Yeah.
of what goes on, and, September for us was a big month for whatever reason, and
Yeah, hot. And with the app, I will say I have family that lives out west, West Haven, and I believe Weber Basin Secondary has provided them with some sort of monitoring, and they really like it. Like they really work on fine tuning their stuff, and so I think it could be a benefit overall. I think people could save money watching it, but this budget's up to you guys whether you want to do it. I think it might save the city money or water overall. I think a lot wouldn't care, but some would take it as a little bit of a challenge, I think. So it's up to you guys. I think there's benefit to it, but it is going to be an extra expense, especially this first year. So it's something for you guys to discuss.
Do we have a consensus one way or another on that? Like, is that something you want us to pull out of the budget or stop the process of, just so that we know?
Sorry, go ahead, please.
So if I could just say, so we're trying to set something up next week to at least explore it, to see how it would work for us. So I don't know if you want to leave something at least until then. If you totally don't want to, then it'll save us time. Like if it's a no-go, like we're not going to do it, then we don't need to meet with them. They're going to bring the reps for our meters are actually out of state, but we're going to do it online with them to see how it all works. From our meter company that we buy our meters through here in Utah, they are saying that typically you get about a 20% participation is what they've seen. They're running in about 20 cities right now in Utah. It's about a 20% participation, but they said it's been really well received, but it's not like 100% participation. And there is the downside that we are going to have 10, depending on the month, between 10 to 15, 18% that's not going to be able to track it, whether it's because of trees or location. When we go out and read at the end of the month for the bill, we actually drive around and make sure all of our reads are up. So all the meters read, it's just whether we can remotely read them from the towers that we have currently. So I don't know if you want to explore it and let it see where it's at, but if you're totally not wanting to do it, it would save us bringing them on site if we know we're not going to do it. So
Have they measured to see any improvement in water usage within the city? Have they been able to?
Like I said, we
Get any of
haven't
that
met
info?
with them yet, so I don't know what that would be. Like it's a pretty basic system. All it's going to tell you is it's going to tell you what you used, probably in the last 48 hours, and it'll probably be 24-hour lag is what I'm hearing so far. I don't know. I haven't met with them, but that's kind of the first impression I get. So it's not going to be like you're watching it like by the minute while you can't go turn your sprinklers on and think you're going to see what your meter's doing at that time. Like it's going to have some lag to it, but it would be more current than 30 days out.
Councilor Arnold first.
But to have it in the tentative budget,
What-
so you can look at it with an opportunity.
We could at least bring you back better information, and then if you want to strike it out, we'll still do the final budget approval. Like it's not like it's set in stone, so we could at least I can give you better information after I meet with them, I guess is what I'm saying.
Councilor Stevens.
What do you estimate a household cost per household would be have this service? $5, $10, $3, $1?
I think we have about 2,400 in the realm of 2,400 connections, so you're roughly $2.
So it'd be like 17 cents a month, $2 a year ish. Once we get it up and running.
The first year, there's the setup fees, and then after that, it's more like your software fees just to keep the service up and running. So the first one would be initially higher. And the towers would benefit us not just for that, but we've been looking at doing another tower anyway, just because we could pick up all them reads and have better real-time data, which saves us a ton of time with Angie, because if she's not getting real-time data and they're calling in for work orders, Then we physically have to pull somebody out, send them out in the field, go out and take the computer out, read the meter on site. It's like an hour process to go read one, where if she has it online right here, like she can talk to them on the phone and say, okay, here's what it did yesterday. And that's how we find a lot of the leaks that we're finding. So we've been really working hard, especially the last month and a half, finding leaks. And while I'm here on the water, I might as well say this. But so I pulled some numbers. I called Weaver Basin today. I pulled our well numbers from April. And right now like they don't have an exact number. They have like an estimate on what we used for the month. And it looks like April we was able to save about 23%. So we're on the right track there. A lot of people really helped us there. We haven't watered for the city yet, but we are close. Like on some of the play fields and that Rich is playing on, like it's getting beat up. So we're going to be, just so you're aware, we're going to be turning on some water. We're going to hold off on some, but we'll just do the ones we have to and just play it as close as we can. But it looks like we had a pretty good month. Probably saved in the neighborhood of 25 acre feet. And for those that don't know, 25 acre feet, that's 1 acre, 1 foot deep of water. So.
Okay. So are we okay with leaving that in the budget while he does a little research on it? And then if we decide we don't want to do it?
I'm probably on the other side of it.
Okay.
But I'm just one voice, so.
Yeah. And so you would be in favor of not doing it.
Moving it.
But the others, are you in favor of proceeding at this point or no? For the tentative budget.
It's minimal.
Yeah.
That's about as minimal as anything we're talking about.
Yeah, because if you're not interested at all, we want to just cancel that meeting. But if there's 3 of you that are interested, then.
Let's look at it.
Okay, we've got 3. So go ahead and have your meeting, and then we'll make a final decision later.
Okay.
This is just tentative. So spent about half the day over here last Wednesday talking about water. So we had a good day.
So that's everything in the water fund. So unless you have any questions, I'll just keep moving. So sewer fund. So Central Weaver Sewer District, I don't remember, Mayor, wasn't the average increase like 8.5%? So if you remember, Central Weaver bases their increase upon, it's a ratio of your increase and your increase in like assessed value, your growth and your assessed value. And so most years, if you remember, we've been under the gun and we've been like cheaper than the average. This year we were over. So our pass-through increase from Central Weaver is 10.45%. And I actually called them and said, hey, is this really right? Because like we're always under. Why are we over this year? And they said, it's right. Like we double and triple checked it because we know you guys are usually under. And it's just due to some of the growth and things that we've had this year. So we're proposing just to pass that through, as that's a large percentage of the sewer budget. So we have the revenues going up to reflect that 10.45, and what that would do to the rates is right here. So the residential per unit would go from $29.13 to $32.20, and once again we're trying to do the rounding for the penny. So that's what the sewer would do. And we don't have any other increases in revenues. As far as expenditures go, we have the citywide facts, we have the Central Weaver going up, and then we have a little change in capital projects just based upon what Sean thinks he'll do this year. And I think it's possible part of these might roll over depending on if that project gets done or not. And then we do have the increase in reserves, so we've got spending $1.5 million and change there for the sewer fund. For the stormwater fund, I think Sean talked to you about this last meeting, I believe, but he got a bad email. He's been selected for his MS4 audit. And so that might have some impact upon this fund once we kind of see the fallout. Historically, or the last year or two, what we've done is we've just taken an average of the other utility funds and done that in stormwater because we really don't have a pass through. So if we did that this year, that would be 8.3%. So that would increase the revenues to $379,000, and then we have a contribution from retained earnings for some of the expenditures down below. So here's the calculation of those other increases and what the calculation would be. So it'd go from $3.68 basically per ERU or per residential to $4 is what the stormwater would do. We've got the citywide facts, engineering. You can see he has a big increase there, and same thing with a little increase in professional services. This is to help him get through his audit. We're going to need some new policies and procedures, and so that's why we've got such a large increase there. And then depreciation's going up slightly, it looks like, so we budgeted $5,000 more for depreciation expense. And then capital outlays, we've got $300,000 for stormwater projects. His projects are largely done, so I think if we had to roll over anything, it'd be pretty minimal. So we've got a total of $532,048 budgeted in stormwater. For garbage, as the mayor talked about earlier, what Robinson and I guess now Republic we're proposing in their new contract is just to follow the municipal the CPI tied to, there's one specifically for garbage and waste services. So the increase there's 4.8%. So that's what we're anticipating. And I believe if we stay with Robinson, and this may have totally changed now in lieu of what the mayor was saying, but there wouldn't have been a transfer station increase, where if we went to the Weber County one, there may or may not be, but who knows if that will even exist. So we're anticipating a 4.8% increase. So that brings the budgeted revenues up to $494,000. We also have a contribution from, this should be retained earnings. I don't know how when I keyed that, it went in the wrong account. So I'll fix that on the final. So that would make the rates, these would be the rates. So the first can would go from $13.97 to $14.65. Each additional can would go from $7.20 to $7.55, and recycling cans would go from $4.05 to $4.25. So that would be the proposed new rates. And as far as expenditures go, the main increase is just that garbage hauler going up by the proposed increase, and then the citywide facts. So that's all the enterprise funds. So in the motor pool, if you remember, we lease out to the other departments. So we've got that lease changing just a little bit based upon the vehicles. So it's $478,140. We've got the sale of assets. We've got that dropped quite a bit. If you remember, I believe in the current year, we are still selling some of the police vehicle fleet. And so we've got that dropped to $20,000. From our earlier meeting, our meeting back in February, March, we're just buying two things out of this fund. We're buying a grasshopper mower for $35,000 and a Ford pickup for $60,000. So we got $95,000 budgeted there, and then we've got some increase in retained earnings. And what that really helps us do is just save up for all the other vehicles that the motor pool is financing. So we've got $623,140 budgeted for revenues and expenditures in the motor pool. And then the information technology fund, same thing. We have those lease revenues, so they're going up slightly, I think, to be $216,644. We've got a contribution from retained earnings of about $30,000 for our total revenues. And then as far as expenses go, we budget some money in here every year, just depending, because things come up throughout the year. But the only thing we're really planning on buying is a new copy machine for the police department for $15,000. And so we've got budgeted revenues and expenditures for $251,500. So that's everything I have in the tentative budget. I'm happy to answer any questions or go back to something if you have some follow-up questions, but that is what we have in the tentative budget.
Hey, council, any questions or comments, any changes that you would propose for Mr. Carden? Okay.
I've asked for years to try and get some more of a breakdown on the apartment side of the senior center. If we weren't in the business of apartments at all, what would the cost be for that facility? I don't think we should be in the apartment business altogether.
Turn your mic on.
Sorry. I don't think we should be in the apartment business. And I think it's time to, with all the increases, everything it's doing, the changes that we're making with the fire department, which I think is a good idea, that, when somebody moves out, we run the AC, whatever, into the ground, or we put a deadline. and say, 2 years from now, you've got to move or something. I just think that the amount of money that we bring in versus the money that we send out is just horrible. I mean, it's no property management company would survive with this kind of thing, and I just don't think that we're set to do that.
Okay. Councilor Richter.
Yeah, and I know we're preparing to do a vote on this tentative budget, so I guess my comments are just in general here. I'm grateful for the depth that you go through on this, and the presentation that's provided to the council here is well done, and I'm grateful for it. As I kind of look through every single expense item and line that you go through, we spend maybe 5 to 10 seconds on each thing going through that, and then we're asked to make a vote on it. I think that is not appropriate. Simple. Given the size of this budget and the impacts that it hits in our residents, I recognize the amount of time that goes into it, and I plead, of course, every year, and I guess I just need to lean into the fact that I might be the resident critic on this. Lean into the fact that if we could just have this information earlier. So right now, when we look at it, I can see some general percentages. I can see some of the notes and a few things, so I can get kind of a ballpark feel for what the city is presenting and asking us to approve. Again, I recognize this is just tentative and that changes can be made moving forward, but the process itself is incredibly disappointing to me. And when we're dealing with a budget of this size and this many people that we're impacting, there are good discussions. We had a brief discussion on water meters, right, which I think is a valid and a helpful discussion so that we can make decisions whether or not this small little piece is appropriate. But the fact that we don't have the time or the ability to have that type of a discussion on all of these elements is incredibly disappointing. So that's my general comment on it. I recognize we are where we are and we need to make a decision on a tentative budget. But this whole topic, I mean, we're talking about tax increases and whether we're going to go into the TNT process and get people all worked up over these things over a very small, less than 1% of our overall budget. These types of things are enough said. That's my feeling on it. So,
Councilor Arnold.
So we used to do a Saturday meeting that was most of the day, and all of the department heads came in and pretty much explained exactly what was going on with kind of what Sean was talking about with the water, but a lot more in depth. And if you would like to see that, I'd be in favor of it.
That or even just
go back to that.
I apologize.
No, you're fine.
No, even just the amount of detail you prepare. I know you prepare that. I'd love to be able to review and digest that a little bit. You spend a whole lot of time preparing this for a flash on the screen, I feel like, and I don't feel like it does justice to what the amount of time that you put into that. There are a lot of things that I think we could do. Again, we're talking about this tax increase. That's, again, a small little piece. I suspect there are elements in there we could look and fix that quickly on the expense side rather than going through this whole thing. But without the ability to really digest it, it leaves us at a severe disadvantage. So thank you. Yeah.
And some of it, just in response to that, some of it, there's like huge time constraints with some of this.
Understood.
And so unless and we can take a Saturday and dive into a lot of like some of it, but some of it, like the timelines, like if you really want more information, we can maybe start earlier and maybe talk more about stuff.
And I know you're constrained. I get that. You don't even get some of the data. I fully recognize that. I just feel like you provided great information to this council. Even just the small little blue notes that you put in on the budget, those things are incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
But we don't, like I say, at least I'm speaking for myself. I don't want to speak for the rest of the council. I don't see it, and so it's very difficult for me to make an informed decision on all of these budget line items. So
yeah, and we can, and if you'd like, we can talk, like meet again between now and the final or whatever we end up doing and talking more about things. So I think there's some things we could do if. And maybe what we could do is have some conversations offline, what might facilitate that so you feel more comfortable and that we can get more information out. Maybe change our timelines or something.
We do have to adopt a tentative budget tonight.
Technically, yes. At our first meeting in
It's just
May,
tentative.
it's just tentative.
So if we wanted to still have another meeting and hash some of this stuff out before we get to the final, and then do something different next
Yep.
year.
And the only thing I would add to that is it's a lot of work, not a lot of work. It is work, but it changes what we have to do for the TNT process. So if you guys are like, we've changed our mind, we don't want to do it, then it saves us postponing a lot of the budget and those things. So I don't know if you feel the same way. Like, it would be kind of nice if we knew, like, yes, we're still continuing on the TNT course, or nope, we're pivoting, we don't want to go down that path, so that we know, because, and we'll talk more, if we continue down that path, we have to do this number one very specifically now. But we have to make sure we hit those timelines perfectly. And so that will look largely like these deadlines. And so we would, and if you remember, just to go back, like, we actually enact an acting budget, and we kind of have to hold everything in suspense, and then we'll have a public hearing in August where we'd actually go through, and you guys would decide if you want to move forward with the property tax increase or not. And then at that point, we'd adopt a final budget with or without, or with a partial tax increase. If not, we'd do all those things at the second meeting in June. And so if we can get some more guidance from you guys, it will help us know what we should or shouldn't do. Is that okay?
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Brooks? Did you have a question? Sorry. Did you?
I apologize for being late. I look at the agenda like I normally do, and I didn't see the time change until Braden texted me and asked me if I was coming. So I don't want anything to do with the TNT process. There's no need for it. I think one of the things that we need to do is sharpen our pencil on the expenses. We need to get busy, not just getting more money, not squeezing the wet rag tighter to get more money out. We need to get busy on the expenses and see some of these things, like the senior center. What is it that's causing the money for Riverdale City to be spending this kind of money and saying that we need this to go up? Because, as I said, last time we raised the property tax, it's a continual increase percentage-wise as we take it up. Then we get another percentage, and it goes up plus that percentage. And so I don't even want to. I want to save you all that time with the
Council Richter.
taxation.
Yeah, if this is the discussion point at that point, I would echo that. I think there's costs involved in the TNT process that, if there is no intent to move forward, and again, I recognize, I sat here 2 weeks ago, and we had a discussion on CarMax, for example, and we made a decision that was contrary to what some citizens wanted, because we recognized the revenue that would generate for the city, and hopefully insulate a lot of these citizens from future property tax increase. It would be very difficult for me to say 2 weeks ago, we made that decision, and because of budgetary, we wanted to insulate you, and then turn around today and say, and by the way, I'm entertaining a property tax increase. So for that reason, I'm exactly in the same way. I don't feel that this is appropriate time for that. Even recognizing the wisdom sometimes of having consistent small increases. I get the wisdom there, but at this point, I don't feel like we've done anything on the other side, and agree with Councilor Arnold on that. So,
Okay. I got a question about the process just a little bit, because we got our agenda a little bit out of order here. So we have concluded with our presentation on the tentative budget. Is that correct, Mr. Carden?
Done now.
I think so, unless we want to talk any more about any of those things. The only other question I have, do you want to talk any more about fires and the timeline?
I think we're okay.
Then no, I'm good. I've presented everything, unless anybody has any questions for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Were there any other changes or comments about the tentative budget presentation? Any items that you had concerns with, or? No. Okay. So now the next one, we'll move on to that notice that we intend, whether we intend to go through with the TNT, I guess, is what item number 1 is. We have heard, I just don't want to get this out of order. So we have heard from a couple of you about your thoughts and intentions. Mr. Brooks, do we just have a discussion about
I think I'd just continue that discussion on
About
that
where they
further,
wanna
because
go
if there's
with
one
that.
more that goes that route, then it eliminates it anyway, so.
Sorry, the agenda has to be very specific. It's not like our regular agendas, and so it's, but according to the state, it has to be written a certain way. So let's go into number one, agenda item number one, and that's where we discuss whether we do intend to go through the truth in taxation process. We've heard from a couple of our council members. Is there any comments from any of the other council members?
Sure.
Okay, Councilor Stevens.
Okay. I'm contrarian to the two viewpoints that have been put forth. Now, Mr. Carden, if you would please go back to the slide that you showed earlier in the 5 o'clock meeting of the cities who are going to have proposed to do TNT.
So there's two. So here's a list. It includes Weber Basin, Northview Fire, and I think Central Weber are the districts, but the cities and towns that are doing it are in blue, plus we're in red
Now, the
because it's
reason why I
kind of.
bring this out is because last time we did this, we all got OJT, on-job training on the process, because it had been a decade plus since the city had done one before. And one of the big expenses was sending out the notices. And you get an economy of scale, the more entities there are that were doing it, the cheaper it was for Riverdale to be in on that. And so it became, when you have a bigger list, if we're the only ones, it's going to be much more expensive. No, we don't make decisions on what it's going to cost, but that does factor in. As far as the entities that are having to find themselves in the budget situation where they need to look at this and to proceed. Now, the quote, former council member and internet aficionado, Mr. Stacy Hawes. I'm holding his campaign flyer that from his most recent campaign, and one of his notions that he was running on was to not delay needed tax increases until they have to be doubled or make them so significant. Now, he also concludes that that's not good stewardship. Now, the point, and I think he brings up a good point, is that 4 years ago when we did that, it had been so long since, because we did not do incremental, and I mean, you can justify, well, this is only, and we can sharpen our pencils. And I mean, it's easy to rationalize, but it takes a little bit of steadfastness, a little fortitude to say, is this the big picture? Is this what we need to do? I mean, do we really think that we are going to be in a scenario where we can continually cut budget, and still meet the costs of inflation? We are going to be limited with the state direction of how much we can, where we did almost 100% double 4 years ago, whenever that was. We won't be able to do that. It was a 5% or 10% you can do. I can't. It's going to be 5%.
In that proposed bill, it was capped at 5%.
5%. And so,
pass.
it's kind of, it's being not prudent to say, okay, we've cut back. Now, we've been around, some of us been around long enough to know how much we've cut back every year. And, with 2030 coming on us, this is not, this is looking at short term and not the big picture, the long term, because inflation is keeping, the rise of expenses, was it 8% on your slide? I can't remember, of the like the increases of wages and expenses for personnel alone, I mean, to operate the city is going up. Now, we get hopefully more with other revenue sources, but does that keep up with inflation? I don't think so. Excuse me. Excuse me. The point is that it feels easy to say no, and then it is to go forward and say, you know what, this is minimal. It shouldn't be dismissed as, oh, this is so minimal that we could sharpen our pencils and cut the budget. This is minimal because costs of running the city are going up. That's the hard part. Do you have to now? A problem that was done 4 years ago that was really ugly was raise taxes, and the city council raised their salaries unwisely, which did not go over well in the public. So if you're going to raise taxes, you can't give yourself a raise as a city council. Anyway, I think this is something that it's easy to say, oh, let's hold the line, and and then dig ourselves a hole. Is that, where do you want the future of this to go? And it just goes down to how do you want to proceed forward, not in this budget, but in the next 5 years as we go forward. That's all.
Thank you, Councilor Stevens. Anybody else have any comments? Councilor Anderson looks like he has something to say.
I'll lean into it for a bit here. When you compare 120,000 to a $20 million budget, that is minimal. And when you look at it as far as what that'll do to an individual tax bill, you pointed out that it's basically $2 a month, or $24 overall. I'm on a fixed income, and so yeah, I'm really concerned about these kinds of issues. But at the same time, I'm practical, and I would tend to agree with Mr. Stevens that we're seeing that fees and to be able to use programs that are already being used with the city, that those rates are increasing. From when I retired, my income stayed the same, but I can physically tell you that everything has doubled in expense. So I'm sensitive to that. I know what that does, but at the same time, Riverdale's in a unique situation. We've got the 2030, where we're going to be losing additional tax revenue. We've also got competition for some of our major retailers. Home Depot's going out in Davis County. Walmart's going out in West Roy. As I learned last meeting, Target is even being voiced somewhere in northern Weber County. Those are going to be challenges. Yes, if we have, if the police department sees fewer shoplifting cases and everything that they have to take care of, because now Home Depot in Clinton's taking care of that, we may be able to reduce some employees over time. Traffic's going to ease up because they won't be coming through. But as they don't come through, they won't be stopping at Trader Joe's. They won't be stopping at any of the other businesses that we have. And so all of that is going to affect us in the long term. As much as I don't, when you offered your comments, I thought, yeah, this makes sense. 120,000, we can cut costs. But why can't we do both? Let's still cut the costs, that we're faced with. We can still entertain a property tax increase, whether it's 6.9 or whatever it is. 6.89, I think, is what the number that you've been kicking around. Or if we decide, okay, we're going to cut costs here, and we're going to look at a 4.5. We've got some flexibility there. And I think that we're taking it from all sides and trying to find action that meets in the middle instead of saying yes or no and having that be our exclusive decision. I'd like to examine doing both. Cut those costs on that 120,000, but also recognize that we do need to move forward with some increases to be able to address some of these costs that we're faced with. That's my view.
Okay. Great comments. Everybody's made really good comments, and
And it's been civil.
it's been very civil. I appreciate that. Thank you. When you pulled that piece of paper out, I got to admit I was really worried where we were going. So, thank you. Yes.
Little old Stacy made you worry.
But thank you for keeping it civil, and thank you. And all your points are very valid. You guys do not have an easy decision in front of you tonight. All the points are very valid. Councilor Arnold.
I'm going to keep this civil, but it's going to be a little contentious. But I'm just stating a fact. Councilor Stevens said a few years ago, you can raise the property tax as high as you want. I don't pay it. I just pulled up the property tax for Councilor Stevens, and it's 0 because he's a veteran. And disabled veteran. Is it disabled veteran? Okay, disabled veteran.
Because I have a disability.
Right.
That the law allows that.
Totally understand. My property tax is about $3,500 a year. So the decision being made is, I'm raising my taxes, I'm raising their taxes, everybody's raising their taxes. And I just think it's just another revenue source that, as far as the contributing source, it's just off. Hate property tax. Riverdale's just a crazy animal that isn't that way in the state, pretty much anywhere else. We have such a small resident base that to say, hey, we've got all this stuff going on, and we need you to contribute because we got all this stuff going on. And we have a benefit because I love going to Home Depot in 5 minutes, and I don't even tell my wife I'm leaving the house when I go to Home Depot, or something. But anyway, I just think for the record it's important.
I have another question for Mr. Brooks. So, are we going to do like a consensus on whether to move forward with the truth in taxation? It's not really a voting item, or
We would have to know because of this new schedule.
and
so
can that be included with the resolution for the adopting the tentative budget? Maybe they say
we did include both of those in there.
Okay.
If the vote or the consensus was, it sounded like we might have a 2-2 at this point. Then if it was a 3-2 against, then we could strike the language in that resolution that refers to the TNT.
So
That's
is
how
that
we'd
the
have to do
appropriate
that.
time
Yeah.
to put them on record as voting? Like they can say whatever they want right now. It's an open forum for them to
We're
comment.
going to have to know
But
by tonight.
the time that you will do it is when someone makes a motion to adopt the tentative budget, and they will include going through the truth and taxation process.
Right. As it stands, how we wrote that resolution up, it has both. If they
Or
don't
the
want
other-
that, we would
the other
strike the
option
language.
is to adopt the tentative budget with not going through the truth and taxation
Correct.
process. And those are kind of our two options we're
Correct.
moving forward towards
Yes.
right now. Councilor
Right,
Richter.
I was just going to clarify. So we would adopt the tentative budget at the current certified tax rate, or we would adopt the tentative budget with the proposed increase?
Yeah, except for I'd just say adopt the tentative budget with no proposed TNT or with
we don't have a
because
true
we don't
certified
have a certified tax rate
Right.
yet.
Just
But you
adopting
are
a
thinking
tentative
Yeah,
correctly.
yeah, you are.
Councilor
Just terminology.
Anderson.
Can I just ask, maybe my suggestion in my prior comments are out of line. Do we have to go with the 6.89?
No, you do not. Like, that's just what we came up with internally, and we talked to the mayor about it, and we're like, they said they wanted to do TNT. We don't know what level. What do you think? This is kind of what we were thinking. And so that's where that came from. And just as a reminder, I don't think we talked about this when we were doing the property tax. If you decide to move forward, it would be at the $120,000. Whatever the growth is would come off of that. And then once we got to that final hearing in August, you can go down anything from whatever that number is to what we're at now. And that's fine. But we can't go up. We can't go above.
But we can mash this, we can cut costs, and we can also entertain a lower tax increase.
Yep, you can do that. So it just depends if there's a consensus to move forward with that, or a vote to move
I have
forward
a
with
question. Do we have any idea what the anticipated cost of going through the process is?
that. I don't know if Michelle knows more. The county usually, and so like, yes to what Councilor Stevens was saying earlier is true. I think some of the mailing costs is actually dependent more upon who's doing it in our city boundaries, because they take whatever it's going to cost to mail it out to our residents. So like in that case, on that list, it would be Weber Fire District, or sorry, Weber Basin Water and Central Weber, because those two entities service our city.
I don't think Central Weber's doing a tax increase.
She has it on that list.
It just
That's from Stephanie,
that
huh?
they
Yeah.
reached out.
Man, because we, in our meeting, we asked about, last year we were going to do it, and now we don't need to do it, and the indication was no. We don't.
And it could be that they just reached out to make,
Could be.
Camille could have just reached out to make sure that like they were covered, kind of like what we did.
Yeah.
Just no harm, no foul. Just we're thinking about it. Like we want to make sure we're hitting these deadlines. So yeah, I'm pretty positive Weber Basin Water's doing it.
I'm sure.
But so it'd just be that one entity, and it's usually the cost of the mailing. If you remember, I believe we still have to potentially do some newspaper notices, but some of those notices are online, so it is less, but there is a cost there.
Councilor Stevens.
Thank you. All right. It went uncivil when I was called out by name. So I'm going to respond in kind. Uncivilly.
Does Stacy get a reply?
No.
Okay.
Excuse me, do I have the floor?
Yeah.
All right. The laws stipulate certain aspects. What he quoted me as saying is a lie. I never said that. That's a lie. I have told people, but I did not say that in this meeting, that I, as a VA disability that the state of Utah offers to veterans, service-related disabilities, you have certain benefits. Now, when I was elected 8 years ago, and I was going through my first budget, I received some emails from Councilman Alan Arnold. And I'm going to read the text as they are. At the time, he was referring to the budget of Riverdale to West Haven, because he had a family member out there who was giving him information. He says, interesting fact, West Haven City does not have an administrator, a full-time city attorney, or an HR director. To which I responded, okay, how many full-time employees do they have? I know they don't have a police department because they contract with the county. How many other services they contract for? And to which he responds, I'll find out. A few years ago, they had the same number of residents, but they had a large amount of growth. That's an apples to oranges comparison. I said, do they also contract with the fire district? And Alan Arnold, councilman, said, we also have a fire chief, a police chief, a fire chief, a judge, a prosecutor, and far less growth. So what's the point? No point, just interesting fact. Okay, this is kind of a gee whiz, so what? But this is illustrious of the mindset that I found and why I did not give a lot of credibility to the thought processes to compare us and our expenses to another city in this, in the community, like what, in this case, West Haven. Because we all are unique, we all have similarities. And so if you want to disparage me publicly from the pulpit, or from your microphone on this, well, you know, that's fine. But you know what? That was out of line.
Is your microphone on? Yeah.
No, sorry. That was out of line of you to do that, and that was a lie on your part.
Okay.
To
That's
say
enough.
that I said
that's
that.
enough.
I
Hey,
didn't. That's a lie.
Okay.
No,
that's
it's
enough.
not enough.
That's enough.
That was really beyond the pale, and it was very uncivil.
Okay. Well, that's enough. All right. Any other comments? Okay. Well, so we don't need to have the statement from the budget officer, right? Number 2. This is just for the agenda. Or do you have to make some sort of statement?
We have to do like number 1, like exactly.
We have to go through each item. Okay.
Yeah, that's on that checklist that we have to do
Okay.
all those things.
So
Can we switch the order? Can we
you have to read.
We probably should do that. Go down to the 5 and consider the
Before
actual
we do
resolution.
those other things.
Yeah, because we got to know if we're going to have the TNT. If we're not, we don't need one. If we are, he's going to have to do that.
So in the future, it might be better to reorganize those and have those after the adoption of, you know, this is our first time. So, okay, well, we're going to move on to item number 5 then, which will be very interesting. Consideration of Resolution 2026-15, adopting the fiscal year 2027 tentative budget and property tax impact schedule and setting a public hearing date. Do you need to go through that public impact schedule, or you feel like you've done that sufficiently?
I feel like if you, depending on your motion there, then we'd need to go back to 1, 2, and 4. Because we have to present that as part of it.
But
So,
this is part of the resolution is
and I did already present it. That's what we went through.
right. You feel like you've met that
you good
requirement
with
to
that?
present it? Okay.
And
Seems
go back
good
and do
then.
those other ones.
All right. Any questions on item number 5? Or any comments? Seeing none, we would need some sort of a motion.
For which
Councilor Richter has his hand up.
I can make a
Item number
motion.
5, this is the resolution.
So I would move to amend fiscal year 2027 tentative budget to remove the proposed property tax increase and otherwise approve the tentative budget as listed in the packet.
So we would approve Resolution 2026-15 with the amendment of removing the truth and taxation portion
Correct.
and the increase. Okay. Is that good enough, Mr. Brooks?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Ms. Maragoni, will you please poll the council?
Counselor Stevens?
No.
Counselor Henson?
Yes.
Counselor Arnold?
Yes.
Counselor Richter?
Yes.
Counselor Anderson?
No.
Okay, that motion advances with a vote of 3 in favor and 2 opposed. So we are going to adopt the tentative budget with no truth and taxation process. Does that sound good to you, Mr. Carden and Mr. Brooks? Is that,
Yeah.
can you have that resolution for us?
The resolution is in your packet.
Packet,
And just with that language that per interlineation, we will strike any language that has to do with the tax increase.
Okay. That makes it so we don't need to go through items 1, 2, or 4, right, Mr.
That's
Carden?
correct. Yep.
And with that, we will move on to section H of our agenda. Upcoming events. We have the Ken Garf Honda ribbon cutting on Friday at noon. Hopefully you could attend that. They got the word out really early on that, and they've put a lot of money into that new facility, and so hopefully we can show them some support there. We have a note that Old Glory Days Parade registration is open, and all the other registrations open on May 15th, and then Memorial Day, the Monday the 25th, the offices are closed. Any comments from the city council for this meeting? Councilor Hanson.
I didn't get a chance to report on my assignments, but one of them I think I gave myself is the Riverdale band.
Okay, sorry for overlooking that.
It's not a real assignment.
Yeah.
So, they had a great concert on Saturday, and I love the band so much. I was curious about whether or not I know they use our facilities for their everything, but do we still budget money for them every year to help a little bit?
Would that be under Rich?
Yeah.
We're discussing the band, yes. Do we budget some money for them each year?
So, yes and no. It doesn't have its own line item. It's wrapped up in our miscellaneous 4,600 account. I do apply for easy grants for them as well. And we didn't get it this year for the band. So it would just strictly come out of our general fund in our 4,600 account. What we've done in the past as far as funding goes is they make requests to me, and then I see what I can do to grant those requests. I would say for the last 4 or 5 years, I've given them everything they've asked for, but they're very modest in what they ask for as well. So I don't know if that completely answers your question.
Yeah, I just was curious. I knew that we used to help them, and I just didn't know. But
Yeah, and then also.
Can you come up to the microphone, please? Shoot.
Yeah. Sorry.
Can you just kind of restate just quickly?
I apologize, council. So we do not have a specific line item for the band, but it's captured in our miscellaneous funds that come out of my department. In some previous years, we've had ramp grants that help fund that. That is not something we have in this current year or this next year, but we'll continue to explore those options with the ramp grants. Another interesting thing about the band is they do go and perform in some locations where they collect small fees, and that is receipted back to the city. We haven't necessarily tracked that in the sense that if they bring in X amount, we spend the same amount type of thing. We're always spending more than what they're bringing in, but they do have a small source of revenue. We're talking a couple $100. So
that's good to know.
Yep.
Any other questions for Rich while we have him up here? Okay, thank you, Mr. Taylor.
And I have finally got to attend the senior board meeting, and that was great. And they're, of course, doing well. Not a lot of big updates there. I think it's just business as usual. But it was good to be able to be involved to see what they're working on. And then I think my third comment would just be, since I didn't get a chance to comment before.
You were given the opportunity. You chose not to.
Sure.
Did you raise your hand?
Sure.
I didn't see it.
I just wanted to share that I liked the input from all of the council members and what their perspectives, and I really appreciate being on a council that can oppose each other and bring up all of the different issues, all the different explanations, and how to look at it in behalf of the residents. And I do believe that every one of the council members is trying to fulfill their duties to the residents, regardless of if their opinions differ. And I've shared it before, I do believe we need to address truth in taxation more often. We should never have what happened a few years ago where we have to do such a big increase. I think this year, for me, the hard part was I know that we've had a surplus for quite a while, and so 100-something thousand, it's with all the other things going up this year, and although 2030 is looming, I don't feel like the 2030 committee has been given the opportunity to do what we could do to help the city. I think we've pinpointed a couple big ones that are going to be, the low-hanging fruit, but I think that the committee was excited to really dig into some other areas that could be beneficial to the city long-term and more of sustainable solutions than just having to write off a whole department. But my comment would just be I hope that at some point we can re-engage with that and keep looking for those opportunities to not only for 2030, because it sounds like we're actually pretty close on all the great work the staff has done to get us to where we're at today and approaching that mark, but to help us even beyond that, Counselor Hanson, or I'm a Hanson, Kent said about that there is going to be growing competition. You know, the growth isn't going to stop in Weber County or in the neighboring counties where we've been really fortunate to be a central location for a lot of people. And so I think 2030 is super important, and the staff is, I mean, from 2005 till now, the staff has just put in an incredible amount of work together and with the different councils that we've had to get us where we're at. And I really appreciate it. But there's always something coming in the future. And so we need to keep looking ahead, and I hope we'll get that chance to do that together.
Thank you. Any other comments from the council? Councilor Arnold?
I had a resident reach out about the plan developments. And I think this is just kind of a strange, I didn't even think of this, but it's the Sherwood. I think it's over on, I think Lamplighter Way is over there type of thing. They have 75 homes in that residential community, and they're on one water meter. So once they go past 10,000 gallons, it goes up. And I mean, they have 75 homes on that. And maybe my information's incorrect or something like that, but if they're using, I think the number they said was around 640,000 gallons a month, which is actually less than 10,000 gallons per household, but because it goes through one meter, you know, they're hitting the other tiers. And I think, and Sean, maybe you just nod your head yes or no if that, does that make sense?
They probably are doing it that way.
Okay,
They have their own water system inside into.
Yeah, come on up.
sorry.
It's Sherwood Park on River Valley Drive.
Okay.
So they do have their own water system. We do meter it in one location. So on the stuff going forward, so like we don't allow that anymore. So like at the new ones that are coming in, if it's going to be a for sale unit, it will be metered individually. So each resident parcel owner in there will have their own meter. Where like on one that, like the one we just did on 300, it's a rental. And so they have just a few meters to do all the units. But if it's going to be owned and sold, then each one will have their own individual meter.
Okay. Yeah, and that's was kind of my point, because I thought if we're moving forward and, you know, people buy into this thing, and then he said, hey, this just isn't fair. This is how this thing rolls. And I'm like, well, that's how the developer built it, and then you bought into it. And it's a really difficult conversation to have when, you know, like on the landslide, you know, I walked and knocked all the doors up on the landslide area, and people were mad at me. You know, I'm saying the city cannot help. It's a private property issue. This one, you know, I just kind of had to tell him, look, it's just the way it works. You have one meter, you have 640,000 gallons, you are paying the extra price. They go 25% increase, and they're not happy. And I talked to Angie, and she's wonderful, by the way. I don't know who she reports to exactly, if she's in business
She kind of gets hit
but she's right
multiple
with you.
times. So she works under Cody for the most part, but I kind of hit her as well. So because she does a lot of my stuff.
She cares about each individual resident, and I do think probably being on the council I get some preferential treatment, maybe, I don't know, but it doesn't seem like it. And she's like, anybody you talk to, please come to, you know, have them call me and I'll explain their situation. And that can't be the easiest thing on the planet when you're a resident, or not a resident, an employee of the city that has mandated certain rules, and then you get a phone call from somebody that they're saying, hey, there's 640,000 gallons and we're paying this upper tier price. And you're like,
So some of that falls back to what they did originally, because they saved a ton of money up front, right?
Yeah.
Because they didn't put any of that infrastructure in. So their initial cost, it made their places cheaper, right? But the side benefit, or the downfall of that is now they have one system that they have to maintain in there, and they don't have meters individually, but their initial costs up front, they probably paid less for their units because they didn't run all the infrastructure to have them individually done. But we're not going to do that. Like, that's just one of them reasons. Like, somebody did that in the past. Like, there's no reason to do that in the future, in my opinion. Like, if they're going to be a sold unit they need to have their own utility on them so that they pay what they're using and they're not responsible for what their neighbor does. Like in the PDs, they will still have a common meter for landscaping per se that they will share in their association costs, but their individual costs for their unit, it's only based on what they're going to use in their unit.
Well, and one thing for kind of ammunition for Angie, I went through his bill with him, and if you have $27.26 per meter plus the water that they used, it worked out to be like $45 a unit for their water. Even though they were paying extra on the tiers, it worked out to be an actual smaller amount.
So you're going to have some like that. Your trailer parks,
Yeah.
you know, they're the exact same way. So you might get hit from the same question with them because they do their own internal, like we only meter them at one spot going in, and then they do what they're going to do internally inside on that.
But there's something wacky with trailer parks, because I see bills from trailer parks and their water is literally a couple bucks per trailer. I mean, on their how they itemize it, but it's still.
Like I don't know where how they
from,
split their costs.
I don't know if it's something from the state or just like you said.
How we bill them is like we have a master meter that bills them, and then they break it down.
If we can be mindful, I guess we're already mindful of that if we're doing for sale units and we don't have that kind of stuff going forward.
The one we
That's
looked
kinda
at
what
the
I was
last
looking for.
with the group from over here, if you notice, I don't know if you caught that on there, but they all have an individual meter already on the drawing, so it's already shown on there.
And they mentioned the cost. They mentioned the additional cost. We're going to do this. Even though
Well, and this resident is like the HOA president, and he said, we have a lot of people here on fixed incomes, and yet the water's coming in, and we're billing these people like this, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. That's just the way you're set up. It was the way the developer came in and built it.
He could individually meter them if he wants to. Like, there's nothing that says he can't go in and meter each residence. Like, if they wanted to do that and cut their costs, like, they could do that because they're splitting their costs once they get the bill from us. They could go put a meter on their individual units if they wanted to. That's not undoable. There's been some businesses in the past that have done that, even though we master meter them. They go back in and individually meter like a sub-tenant in there and say, okay, you're paying this because you're using this. They can do that on their own. But yeah, it's something they could do if they wanted to. It would be fairly pricey at the time.
Thank you for. I think we're already ahead of this one.
So the other thing that I brought up when they brought in the meters the other day, they had them as 1 inch, and I asked them to look at them to see if they actually even needed 1 inch, because a 3/4 meter is cheaper for the residents going forward on their monthly bill. And so they was going to go back and look at that and see if they did require a 1 inch. If they didn't, then they'd cut it back to the 3/4, which would save the residents on the lifetime of their bill. But we did bring that up in that pre-meeting with them. So.
Councilor Stevens.
Would you explain to me where we're at on the agenda?
We're in comments.
Okay, so is that part of the comments now?
Well, he had a question from a resident that he brought up, and so it was just about a meter.
I know what it was about. I heard it, but
yeah,
the point of it is.
Why'd you ask the question?
Because it was in times of past. It was I brought up stuff, have brought up things, and it created a kerfuffle on something or another, and it was shut down because things you get into discussions that are not on the agenda and potentially coming from the lawyer, that it can be a problem. So, I mean, that's kind of a discussion that's interesting, but could it be handled with a phone call to the city manager? I mean, it probably could, but I mean, so I guess my question to you is, what constitutes comments? A question?
If you have comments or questions.
Okay, then I will bring that up, because I've been shut down plenty of times that it wasn't on the agenda. And I think you better maybe have a discussion with the city manager / lawyer as to what you're going to allow in your meeting, because otherwise, I got Haas will certainly light up anybody on the internet, but you're really opening yourself up to discussions because I will, if you're going to open it up like that, fine, it's going to bite you. I guarantee it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
maybe you need to work that out.
Okay. Any other comments from the council? All right, seeing none, any comments from the city staff?
I just make one quick just notation, in light of all this tonight, then that means our final budget will be on the 16th of next month. So that's one we need to make sure everybody's there for. That'll be the final.
On time.
That would be nice, yeah. And I don't anticipate we'll do a pre-planning unless something came up or something, so.
Again, I apologize, okay.
There'll be no additional meetings in between there to talk about the budget, so if we have
If
questions-
you guys want one, we can have one.
I'm not proposing that. I just wanted to clarify that.
We have
that's
nothing
one.
scheduled at this point. So.
We won't have the rate to really talk more about it until maybe that Thursday before,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So if there's something else, but
So any amendments to the budget would just be made at that final, requested at that time. Okay, thank you.
Counselor Anderson?
I would like to request that a lot of your presentation, that you forward that to us so that we could review that in depth. That would really assist us, I think.
Counselor Arnold?
Just the last thing, if there's a possibility of getting something with the senior center with the apartments, I mean, those are really big numbers. And, you know, the comment I made about the monitoring the water, that's complete pennies. I mean, that's insignificant really. But I think when we're talking about all of the money that we go into refurbishing the apartments and the AC units and all that kind of stuff, it's a good money draw on the city, and it's just subsidizing a small number of people that really isn't associated with the senior center. So, I mean, if there's, I don't know how to do it. We've been asking for it for a long time, but I don't know if it's a moving target or.
I mean, we can get you whatever we have. We did have a study done a few years ago by Fred. I don't know how much of that detail's in there. If that's what, I think we presented that to you once or twice, but we can get you that stuff again and anything we've got. Again, I don't have a problem doing it. I just don't know what all we've got. So, or if it's going to answer your question or whatever you're seeking out here.
I just had a thought or a comment. It's really difficult budgetarily as well as just policy trying to figure out what to do to have a fractured discussion. Obviously, some of the costs that you saw tonight are capital projects, but it's the whole RDA facility, not just the apartments. And so obviously, and maybe this is obvious to everybody, but having that discussion impacts the senior center as well. So it's not just a discussion about the apartments, or it's not just a discussion about the tenants. Now, should it be that way? Should we be in the business? But we are. And because we are, we have to look at it holistically, right? And I think in the past, whether it be the study that Steve's referencing or numerous times on the agenda, that's where the sticking point's been. In my estimation, every time that we've talked about it, is because we're not just talking about a small number of people that live there. We're talking about the whole thing, right? And obviously, there's decisions that you guys need to make, and I'm fine with any of that. It's in my estimation, it's a bigger discussion. It's really tough to just discuss about the apartments and the tenants. Every time that we've tried, I mean, we can't even get correct numbers because it's so intertwined. We do have two separate budgets, and there's two separate agencies, the City Council and the RDA, but I mean, it is so intertwined. And these AC units, correct me if I'm wrong, Cody, these AC units that we had listed tonight, not the 7 apartment ones that you identified, but the other ones, those are exclusively senior center use. I mean, it goes to the whole building, but it's over the senior center part, not the apartment part.
I think there's some that are in the hallways.
Okay.
But for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's just a big discussion, and maybe to Councilor Richter's point, additional meetings or maybe really focusing on that, not necessarily decisions, but a work session to kind of work through how the council feels about it. And as a staff, we're willing to provide anything that you guys want and have any kind of discussion that you guys want, but it's been really hard to separate it out just to the apartments, in my estimation.
I have one question really quick. What if we, like something like that, what if we brought that to the 2030 committee and not like fully baked it, but half baked it, kind of got you guys' input and those kind of things and got it ready to bring it back to the full council for like a discussion. What do you think about something like that? Because sometimes we need more of like a fluid conversation, like what alternatives do you guys want to see and things, and then we can go ask Adam Long and we can kind of get it ready to bring back. What about something like that? And then they really are having an impact on what the city looks like for 2030 and some of those things. Is that an okay way to maybe handle some of that stuff?
Councilor Arnold.
I think it's great. I mean, that's what we're looking for between now and 2030. I mean, we have, 3 years. I mean, we should be ready for this, not in 29. I mean, we should know what we're doing by the end of 28 or whatever. And it's like to have those conversations and under the Robert's Rule of Order here is rough, and to have wherever we do it. If you guys do it, if the 2030 committee, I think it's great just to have a good, solid conversation that we're actually doing something, moving forward, moving the needle somewhere.
Yeah, I think we need to have an in-depth conversation. So we'll put that, once we get through the budget, let's get that on the second half of this year.
And I do feel if you look back in previous budgets, last several years, the needle has moved a little bit. In some ways good and in some ways bad, but overall, you look at the revenue that we're collecting, and I mean it's steadily increasing, and some costs are a little bit more controlled. Others, we have infrastructure issues that we're dealing with as well. But the needle is moving. But you guys as a council, I mean, certainly you guys direct all that, but that sounds like a great plan to me too.
Okay. Any other comments from the staff? I did have a request. I would like to have a 2030 meeting before our June budget meeting, so that we could maybe look for some of that high-hanging fruit and see if there's a little bit of that we can knock off to get our budget, just to help with this a little bit. So hopefully the schedule will work where we can all get together before the other meeting and have some suggestions for this budget. And that's all I have. So we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All right, we're adjourned.
Me too. I'm glad you're here.
It's like, this is not.
No.